So it's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And we got a lot of stuff going on over on those platforms. Whatever works best for you is the right place for you to be as we continue our dual constant missions of having live local talk radio here in the borderland, because damn it, I think we deserve it, and also talking about the things that affect us right here at home, because I still remain unconvinced that anyone else is going to have that conversation the way we do. People who live, work, play, spend their lives, raise their families, life activities in general going on here, and a lot of that type of stuff, or impacts therein, I guess you could say, certainly at issue or up for discussion today, including some promising-ish numbers. I mean, we're not there yet, but from the first day of early voting, we're doing some of our own breakdown, but El Paso Matters has actually a very succinct one, and including a little bit more data than we could get our hands on when it comes to how much, how many, and comparisons, particularly to previous years. We'll talk about that in terms of results, or, well, turnout, more accurately so far. Also, more discussion from the city of El Paso on Proposition K and how, if passed, it could impact city operations, and also the plans for a disaster declaration before the end of Title 42 on May 11th. That discussion coming from the city, as well as that is also being anticipated. So, ever so slightly some minor and just ever so, narrow concerns going on today. Yeah, it's some big stuff definitely happening on locally, but also is trying to check in, as we do, with, well, what's going on in the Texas legislature, what are some of the big things that are moving along with them, and the bills being put through, as well as certainly what is going on also locally when it comes to, well, some of the charity work and some of the major funding that could help with, well, some of the situations we just mentioned, but also the area in general, checking in with the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank, specifically on the status of their challenge grant match and how you all can still help with that and make sure that things are taken a bit better care of, both for our friends, neighbors, and some of those situations we'll be encountering in our region, pretty well guaranteed. As we have Robbie Flores chiming in. Hello, everyone, and hello to you as well. Those dropping those likes and reacts, including Robbie, but also Monica Cervantes, Flaco Jimenez, and James Ratcliffe so far. Again, that's one of the better ways that you can chime in during the show, add your 2 cents, participate as works for you. Again, don't be like texting, driving, holding the phone between your knees or the wheel, or vice versa. Just don't do it. Focus on one task at a time. I promise we'll be here whenever you stop driving. And you can, just as a note, you can always go back and catch our previous episodes, including specifically for Proposition K, as we are in this election, the deep dive we did with the proponents of Prop K, and some of the questions that y'all had brought up on how exactly some of those things and the way it is written would or would not work, even if there's a whole lot more to come with that. Also, Eric von Holstein Rathlow wishing everyone, all of y'all, a good afternoon. Is that the correct? I've had some pushback on that before. Is it all y'all? That's the way I say it anyway. So let's go ahead and dive straight into it. And again, I call it promising-ish because still got a long way to go. But, well, just the headline from El Paso Matters. Older El Pasoans dominate first day of early voting. Maybe that's not the promising part, because even though they make up, roughly, let's call it roughly a quarter of those, retirement age and above, but 60% of voters over the age of 65 were the primary turnout of this most recent day of early voting. But 4,100 people throughout El Paso County voted on Monday, specifically about 3,900 and change of those within the city of El Paso. And heard from at least one of those we mentioned yesterday, Larry, if I'm not mistaken, saying that, went out to vote, didn't end up having anything on his ballot because not in the city of El Paso and no school board districts in his immediate area. So still appreciate you making the time to, or the attempt to. So tell you what, you didn't technically vote, but still, just for making the effort, there's the bell that I probably should have given you yesterday anyway. And yes, we will hand those out for those that are voting if that's important to you, because, well, it's important to us. So if you haven't already gone out to vote there, please continue to make your plan to do so. So the particularly interesting part of it, and why I call this promising-ish, is that according to, well, I'll just read the first paragraph of El Paso Matters article on this. Monday's turnout was extraordinarily high for an off-year election in El Paso. First day of early voting in 2013 and 2017. Last time mayoral elections were held in the spring of odd-numbered years, drew 2,500 and 1,800 voters respectively. So this is not quite double either of those. So that's why I say promising-ish. I mean, there's been quite a lot of airtime, quite a lot of focus, quite a lot of furor, support, however you want to put it. It's definitely coming up with, I mean, okay, Prop K in a word, or a phrase, I guess is more accurately, has been the one that has been the primary driver. I don't think that would be, I don't think that's a particularly controversial statement to make. Now, your position on it, that may be, and most of the mailers or flyers I've gotten have been decidedly in one bent. I will say that much because, well, that's the way that campaign has been moving forward. But yeah, there's, well, El Paso Matters. Bob Moore is often, editor there, has often posted on his own social media about the makeup and the demographics of those voting, particularly in the age-wise. And so he often comes up with some very interesting analysis, as he is the author of the article out today. Almost 16 people over 65 cast ballots for every one person under 30 doing so, which is the standard that happens on, it is pretty much the way that it happens usually. So yeah, it's I'm not going to quite call it an exponential decay, but they do have an interesting pie chart on their site showing that, yeah, 65 and up dominated the voting in El Paso, specifically with the next one being, and just kind of in order, 50 to 65, and then 30 to 50, and then rounding out the last of it under 30. So, yeah. And I'll agree entirely with Flaco Jimenez that El Pasans don't like to vote, but kvetch about low wages, nothing to do, etc. Like, seriously, I'm just going to declare the soapbox out for the season and set up and ready for me to hop onto it, as I will do right now. Voting is punching your ticket into public life. Like, if you can't even do that, I have serious doubts about your ability to follow through with anything else. I've been involved with a variety of, nonprofits, community groups, organizations over the years. And there are so many people that may sure, sign up for the board. And then when an idea comes up, they're happy to suggest an idea, but then actually doing something about it, oh no. Oh, well, can we get someone on? Can we make a committee? Can we get a gopher is basically what's being talked about. So if you can't even bother to go out to vote, seriously, if I had the ability to verify technology, that would be one of the requirements to call into this ding damn show. Would be okay, cool. You want to call in? Where did you vote most recently? What precinct was it? And what area did you vote in? Just something like that. I want to know that you're at least doing more than just doing the kvetching anyway. And Ed Clore, saying that only one voting today around noon at Medrano, library closed for renovation. Yeah, there's a couple of those. One of the ones closest to me was, but as promised, thank you very much for going out to vote yourself, and encourage everyone you know, well, that you're willing to tell anyway, to go out and vote as well, because yeah, nothing about this being a small or tepid turnout is going to sit at all right with me. So we may. I am seriously going to hedge my bets on this, because I have been frequently disappointed in the past whenever it comes to voting. But again, promising-ish reasons to be maybe very subtly optimistic about this. And El Paso Matters does have a little bit lower in the story as well, that the actual makeup of the voters, 65 and older makeup, let's call it a little bit less than a quarter. Same with 50 to 65. They're pretty close. While 30 to 50 makes up damn near a third of the registered voters in El Paso County, while those under 30 is about, it's a little bit smaller than the 50 to 60 range. And yet that is not at all representative of those who are actually going out and doing the voting. But we got the older segments, the retirement crowd coming out in force for the first part of it. Let's hope that other segments and just more people in general are going out as well. So we'll keep checking in on that. But also, City of El Paso doing some analysis of what the potential impact of Prop K could be. We've talked a lot about that. $5 million a year, $150 million initial cost, or setup costs, so to speak. I don't know if there's a better way to put that, but talk more about that as there has been further discussion in recent city council meetings, the work sessions going on, as well as a lot more involving Prop K, but actually coming out of this next, or Prop K and also Title 42, love all of these pithy phrases for monumental things that will certainly have an impact in our area. But coming up after this next break, actually going to be visiting with the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank and, well, hearing about the status of their challenge grant match that we've had, well, some of y'all bring up, as well as us being very interested in following up on. We're in the last week of the chance to fulfill it. And to my understanding, the way to describe it to me, it all does have to be matched in order for it to go through. So talking a little bit more about that, and of course, more of the things that affect us here in the borderland, but got to take that break right now. You are tuned into Talk El Paso, airing here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. More of everything we do. Phone lines a little bit later, but in any case, stay tuned for Talk El Paso on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound is reduced to one lane because of road construction between Copia and Cotton Street. Expect delays till 4 o'clock for that road work. Stalled vehicle is blocking the exit ramp, Border Highway, westbound at Santa Fe. Road construction has the left lane closed on I-10 westbound after Las Muchas Drive. And police and fire still working an injury accident westbound red at Donovan Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
How could $1,000 change your life?
I could buy eggs.
Then listen for inflation compensation. Your chance to win $1,000 to combat high prices.
Honey, we're going to have eggs.
Yes, it's excellent. Be listening for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour, 9 through 5 p. with the inflation compensation on News Radio 690 AM. Brought to you by Charlie Clark Nissan and Charlie Clark Infinity of El Paso.
Orale!
This report is sponsored by Our American Stories.
Before he was president, he worked in his dad's store after getting kicked out of the Army. We'll have the story of U.S. Grant. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you again, El Paso, for making us #1 in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in March. While other dealers continue to sell their vehicles for over MSRP, we continue to have the best prices in town.
Get huge savings on hundreds of new and certified pre-owned vehicles during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Right now, get $5,000 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, plus super low 4.9% APR for 72 months. Get $5,500 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport and $6,000 off MSRP on 2023 Dodge Durango SUVs. Worried about your trade or credit? Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect, or if you owe more than your trade is worth. Trade and upgrade for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus DTNL, 4.9% APR, 1606 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Okay, so we have the car payment, the rent, utilities,
and the repair bill.
What should we do?
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, we could have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
Finding great people to hire can be like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Their powerful matching technology delivers so many qualified candidates. It's like finding a needle in a needle stack. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. For less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at Facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, and of course Talk El Paso, brought to you in part by Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge, Jeep Ram Fiat, where of course it is now truck month. They got 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star crew cabs for serious dollars off, including $4,000 total bonus cash allowance. Check them out, ends May 1st, but we got a lot of stuff we're talking about here today on the program. But again, sure to check them out. 950 Crockett Street, Sunland Park, Chrysler Dodge, Jeep Ram Fiat. So, more voting news. Actually, Barbara Codasco mentioning husband and I were the 760th and 762nd. There were 7 voting stations, all occupied when we got there, all filled when we left, and 4 waiting to sign in. That total was from yesterday and today at 1 p.m. Though it's again, okay, I'm always very hesitant to be like optimistic and be like, yeah, it's going to work, it's going to happen, or people are going to show up, because politics does not care about your feelings. It cares what you've actually done about it. And I mean, sure, we've talked quite a lot about it, but I'm often concerned we're just preaching to the choir when it comes to those willing to go out and actually do the voting. So seeing those signs, and again, I do believe I owe you a, come on. There we go. Thank you for voting, as we'll keep doing that. I hope we break that button. I'm just going to say that without ringing it too much. I mean, it's digital. It's going to be fine. But I hope we get as close as we can to breaking that button, because we just need more voting. That's just the position I will die on this hill. Anyway, so thank you for sharing that. Very interesting to know. It was pretty early in the day when I went to the Sunland Park Mall yesterday, so I didn't think to ask, but I'm sure that there has been some turnout already. It's one of the major areas right before this. Yeah, very much with the yay. Appreciate that. So talking about other things also going on affecting us here, as much as, yeah, we're going to be talking about voting pretty solidly. Let's at least call it through the 6th. You shouldn't be surprised about that. But other things going on that are ending before that, specifically the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank. They have their grant challenge match going on right now. And okay, fine, Robert telling me that yes, it should be one more because it was for also the husband here. Listen, okay, let's just make it clear, one time per reporting. So if your husband wants to come on and say I voted too, I'll give it to you this one time, but going forward, yeah, I'm just saying there, getting extra button presses out of me. Anyway, Pasoans Fighting Hunger, Fighting Hunger Food Bank, their match, the $250,000 match challenge, facilitated in part by the Jewish Philanthropies of Southern Arizona. We are in that last week, and they are very close to that goal, but they do need to have the entire amount matched. So I was able to check in a little bit earlier with Susan Goodell, CEO of the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank, to talk about what is going on, what this will go to help, and what you all need to do, including the donation information. We'll also share up that link again. So here is that interview. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Susan Goodell, CEO of the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Great to be here, Andrew.
Very happy to talk with you and check in with you, particularly since there is a particularly it's a challenge, but in a good way going on right now, specifically that there is, as we are both recording this and planning on airing this, basically a week, either at or just under a week left of this $250,000 match grant challenge that you all have received. And some of our audience have brought that up. And so this is a chance to literally double the money. I mean, oftentimes think about this kind of stuff around Giving Day or, holiday seasons, but this one coming at this point of the year, how important is this and this amount of money at this point in time to the operations of the food bank at this moment?
This is incredibly important, Andrew. We have had a very generous donor who has made a challenge grant possible for our food bank to help support the migrants coming into our community. This is a $250,000 challenge, and we need to raise $250,000 in order to receive the $250,000 from this very generous anonymous donor. So this gentleman has told us that he is very flexible, that he will match donations for any purpose coming into the food bank as long as the person making the donation is willing to have it matched. So the donations from your listeners or others in the community can go for supporting people in need who are our neighbors year-round, or they can choose to have it go towards helping migrants as they come into the community.
Now, we're going to be talking about this in a couple of ways over this next few days. So, in general, without saying exact numbers, because that could change slightly, but where does it stand in towards actually finally meeting this challenge and be able to receive that, well, you know, the $250,000 initial, but then, of course, the match funds that are the necessary requirement for it?
We are so darn close. We're about $10,000 away from meeting the match, but we are down to the wire. We have until April 30th to raise the remaining money, and so we're kind of biting our nails over here.
Absolutely. So again, the way this works, and people can find the information details on this if you just want to go to elpasoansfightinghunger.org. That's elpasoansfightinghunger.org. It's right there in the middle of the main page under the migrant grant match. Mentions the $250,000 match challenge in partnership with Jewish Philanthropies of Southern Arizona. And again, there's information on the page once you click through about the way that it can be designated, about the funds and the way you want to end up supporting this. So when it comes to just the operations right now and the status of them, I mean, it's never not an issue, but in the conversations we've had over recent years, I feel like it has been kind of continually at this, maybe not fever pitch, but this plateau. We saw ramp ups that never really drew down, it feels like, at least from the perspective I have outside of the organization, of the need in our community.
Yes, so we're seeing a great deal of need from our neighbors here in El Paso. Poverty in this community is in the low 20%. So that's about 1 in 5 people here in our community that suffer from poverty. When you look at food insecurity, the numbers go up to closer to 30% of the community. And we are unfortunately facing an increase in need due to the cost of food. I mean, the cost of everything is going up with inflation, but certainly the cost of food is driving a lot of people here to the food bank. In addition to the need that we see every single day here, we are looking at the likely lifting of Title 42 on May 11th. And what that will mean is another big influx of refugees into our community.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Susan Goodell, CEO of the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank. Again, any of the details on what we're talking about, organization in general, elpasoansfightinghunger.org. That's elpasoansfightinghunger.org. And then specifically look for the migrant grant match, the $250,000 match challenge that we are basically, as this is airing, in the last week of. And so your help is necessary to make sure that this funds can be added to what is available and possible to be provided in our region. So when it comes to, particularly the cost of food, and I feel like most times we end up checking in with you, it's about what the problems are or just the challenges that come around gathering it, because something, and the reason that there are the phrases that we use when it references how y'all able to do this, if you know $1 providing a number of meals, don't know the exact calculation these days, but when it comes to that, it's because you're able to go out and get stuff that you or I individually were not able to do so, but that has often increasingly been challenging. Kind of how does that frame and does that work out these days with these increasing challenges?
Well, the food bank is still incredibly lean and efficient. We send our trucks out on a daily basis to pick up food that otherwise would be going to waste. So these are manufacturing overruns of cereal, or maybe items that are bulk packed that have never been put into consumer size packaging that we need to repackage here. It can be things as simple as my favorite example, and you've probably heard me say this before, Andrew, is things like, Kellogg's Raisin Bran. When somebody makes a mistake and puts 3 scoops of raisins in instead of 2, well, that's no longer saleable. So that would be an item that would be coming to a food bank for distribution to the community. And I can tell you, I've not met a person yet who objects to 3 scoops of raisins instead of 2. So because all of this food would be donated, we only incur the cost of going to pick it up and bringing it into El Paso, and then, of course, the cost of distributing it. So every dollar that we receive, we quickly convert into ingredients for 7 meals.
Yeah, so $1 equaling 7 meals is an amount that would be hard to rival with anything outside the scope and scale that you all do. So when it comes to this amount, I mean, the $250,000 base amount, and again, the doubling of that with the match, so this $500,000, what could that go towards at this point in time? I mean, you mentioned some specific concerns, some specific efforts coming up or things that you all are preparing for, as are many parts of the community. But just in terms of y'all's day-to-day operations, I mean, with there having been other fundings that have come and gone, as we have seen, some of the other national emergencies even related to those same kind of pandemic restrictions come and go. What does this mean for the just everyday operations right now to be able to have this to ensure that all the things keep going?
Well, this would very quickly be converted. $500,000 to $500,000 would be very, very quickly converted into 3.5 million meals. And that would be used for a combination of people in need, whether it's our neighbors right here in El Paso that need a little extra help, or migrants coming in. Certainly the matching dollars from this anonymous donor would go to supporting the migrants. But we will be sending trucks out into other parts of the country where food is produced. We don't produce very much here in El Paso. And we'll be going out, and I'm looking out my window right now, and I'm seeing grocery carts of things like fresh tomatoes, and I see some yams, I see yogurt. I'm seeing a lot of things in these grocery carts that people will take home and they will make into meals to feed themselves and their families. Of course, when it comes to the migrants, they don't have the luxury of having kitchens and refrigerators and stoves. So we will be either making the meals ourselves, sack lunches, sack breakfasts. But in addition to that, we give ingredients to many of the faith-based organizations in town who in turn cook hot meals for the migrants with the ingredients that we give them.
Absolutely. So, of course, again, the donation drive, just to put this pin in it, in the last week and needing that about last push to get to it, of course, there's the ability to make the donation online over at Pasoansfightinghunger.org. But if people want to do it, or not online savvy or have the ability to do so, if they want to provide it any other way, including by sending you all a check, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, easy to put a check in an envelope and send it off to El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank. And we are at 9541 Plaza Circle, El Paso, Texas, 79927.
Again, that one more time, 9541 Plaza Circle, El Paso, Texas, 79927. So again, a guest right now has been Susan Goodell, CEO of the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank. Thank you very much for checking in with us, letting us know what the current situation is, what the status of this particular challenge grant match drive is, and what are some of the things you all are preparing for in our region here today.
Thank you, Andrew. We really appreciate your help getting the word out.
And again, thanks to Susan for speaking about that. So we again put that link in the comments there already, but Pasoansfightinghunger.org is the main website. And if you just kind of scroll down a little bit, it's prominently featured on the page in the first bar that you come to. So again, can help the variety of situations immediately in our region, either the neighbors or some of the situations that we are very likely to, we've already been facing, likely to continue doing so, and we'll continue talking about that, and hopefully we'll be able to check out on that. And there is ways to designate about which way your donation will specifically go to. There's basically a checkbox if you're doing it online. So again, any information on that, Pasoansfightinghunger.org. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take that due for that next break already, talking more about some of those situations we're going to be facing and looking at, including when it comes to Proposition K, a little bit more detail coming out from the city about how some of the technicals may work from their end if it were to be passed, as well as also what some things are being considered when it comes to the end of Title 42. So let's get to that after this next break. You are, of course, tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot more coming up, and we'll keep getting to that, so stay tuned. That phone line's a little bit later, as we do on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 westbound is reduced to one lane because of road construction between Copia and Cotton Street. Expect delays till 4 o'clock for that road work. Stalled vehicle is blocking the exit ramp, border highway, westbound at Santa Fe. Road construction has the left lane closed on I-10 westbound after Las Muchas Drive. And police and fire still working an injury accident westbound red at Donovan Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
We live in a society where race trumps merit. New York Times bestselling author Heather McDonald joins me on The Truth with Lisa Booth to talk about why it matters. Listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday, but you can listen throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser said during Monday's work session meeting that he'll declare a state of emergency due to migrants coming to El Paso before Title 42 ends on May 11th. Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino says there is a possibility that we could experience 35,000 migrants crossing the border into El Paso from Mexico. The El Paso City and County Office of Emergency Management at the news conference yesterday addressed possible solutions that could be implemented to house migrants coming into our city. The city says it's ready to reopen the Welcome Center for processing and provide basic necessities to migrants. The vacant Moorhead and Bassett Middle School buildings are also prepared to take in migrants. The convention center would be used next if the schools are full. Now, if the need goes beyond that, hotels would then be used as shelters. D'Agostino says nothing is set in stone yet. And the hardest part about the planning is the uncertainty of what could come when Title 42 ends. I'm Iraca Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. It looks like a nice one coming our way for Wednesday. After lows in the 50s, most areas will see lighter winds, just breezy conditions, and cooler, high around 80 degrees for our Wednesday. Partly cloudy skies, a little warmer for your Thursday, high around 84. Looks like we could see some gusty winds returning for our Friday with partly cloudy skies, high around 86. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
Hey, let's force the city to buy the electric company for $8 billion.
It costs 8 times more than El Paso's budget.
Yeah.
Property taxes would skyrocket. That's an awful idea.
That's Prop K. And that's not all. Prop K shuts off water at some gas stations.
That's crazy. No bathrooms or water to stop a fire?
Small price to pay to stop pollution.
But the Environmental Protection Agency said most of El Paso's pollution comes from international sources, not us.
Let's pass it anyway.
Even if it means raising everyone's electric bills and property taxes and cutting police and firefighters?
Now you get it.
This is the worst idea ever. Who wrote this?
My neighbors did.
How can you call yourself an El Pasoan?
I don't. I'm from Austin.
Austin wrote it. Only El Paso can stop it. On May 6th, vote no on Prop K, the worst idea in El Paso history. Political ad paid for by El Pasoans for Prosperity PAC.
You know it's not okay? Prop K. It's not okay for taxpayers to lose billions in revenue. It's not okay for El Pasoans to lose thousands of jobs. And it's not okay to cause damage to our economy. On May 6th, let them know none of this is okay by voting no way on Prop K.
Hurry and shop the final days of Springfest at Lowe's and get the best values of the season before they're gone. Save big on the Ego 15-inch string trimmer. It was $219. Now it's $199. Shop Lowe's today. Valid through 4/26. Selection varies by location while supplies last. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
I spent a lot of time in the garage, but even more time in the rain and mud. In 95, I helped tow your moving trailer. And in 09, it was sparks from me, your chains, dragging behind your truck that accidentally started a wildfire.
Spark a change, not a wildfire. Visit SmokeyBear.com, brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
All right, class, let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home. Wow, awesome. Where were you, Jill? Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Into those phone lines here in just a minute, as we usually do towards the end of this segment. But in the meantime, a few other things want to talk about, particularly coming out of Mayor, City Council, some of those very important things. Noted by our news partners over at KFOX 14, Proposition K, there have been, again, some of those estimates put out, impacts. I mean, there's been studies and counter studies and counter studies at this point, I think, when it comes to overall impacts of it. When it comes specifically to city operations, some interesting insight coming from, around, I guess, some of the recent city council meetings. Again, article title from our news partners at KFOX 14, City of El Paso explains how Proposition K could impact city operations. And of course, the whole all available efforts clause of that, well, the one part of it about the municipalization of El Paso Electric. And that part of it has had quite a lot of questions, including the fact that, again, all available efforts means what exactly? And what is seeming to me, and this is my analysis solely, is that those efforts will come down to both who is sitting on city council. Again, if this is implemented in the first place, got to get past that part. But if it were to be, if it would come down to who's on city council and also who might be part of that board that is getting appointed or elected, somewhere in between, or appointed by the electeds, I think is the correct way to put it, and to who is actually going to be making the decisions about what efforts are available or not. So specifically, our news partners at KFOX 14 spoke with Laura Cruz Acosta, spokesperson for the city of El Paso. And I mean, one of the big questions on what would the actual purchase of El Paso Electric cost. I mean, among other things, there's been an $8 or $9 billion figure that's been being bandied about when it comes to this. But what she said specifically is, quote, "We don't have a good grasp of what it would cost to municipalize El Paso Electric. There's an unknown cost associated with that." And of course, there's the more recent, I think it was $4.3 billion purchase that happened. I mean, it feels like it happened not that long ago, and that's kind of correct, but it was 2019. Went back and checked that. And so that's part of what that whole feasibility study that is rolled into that roughly $150 million number that keeps getting talked about as well, of the city costs for basically everything of what is anticipated up to the actual purchase of El Paso Electric itself. And so part of the information is being put out about what that feasibility study would include, could also include the construction costs of separating a city-owned system from the utility's larger system, which is an interesting thought, because I think I've been making the assumption, as well as, well, a number of our callers, among other things, that the purchase of El Paso Electric would be the entirety of it, the entire system, and not just the city's parts of it. But if that were to be a feature of the study, that would be, I guess, interesting, or not quite what I was anticipating. And I didn't even know that was a question that we probably should have asked, apparently. But the idea of this coming up, as well as setting up standalone operations being cited in the story, again, from our news partners here, power supply options. So there's more to this than maybe even as much as time I've spent thinking about this and doing interviews on this, had fully anticipated. And that feasibility study would be the up to $12 million and roughly about 8 to 10 years. So it's going to take, let's just call it, better part of a decade to see even that part not even getting implemented, but getting ready to be implemented. And even the idea of how that would be paid for, not totally clear yet. And again, quoting from Cruz Acosta from our news partners at KFOX 14, you bring in a subject matter expert in terms of what is involved in every aspect of it, and determine what are the steps needed and what are the costs associated with it. What are some of the legal questions that need to be answered? And one of the big questions of if the feasibility study, which would be a two-parter, the way that the city has described it, shows that it's not feasible. It could not be moved forward with, and then that would basically be up to then city council. And then I would argue that, well, that guiding body that is being talked about as part of it. But yeah, so those are some of the interesting questions coming out on that. But then, yeah, Title 42, that other, we got a lot of two-word or two-part phrases that are very impacting around our area today. So Title Proposition K, seeing if that'll happen or not by May 6th. And then, of course, May 11th, Title 42, the anticipated end this time around, unless there's, I don't know how there could be a further rug pull. I guess the federal government could decide that they're no longer going to end pandemic-related restrictions, and yet I'd be surprised with all the buildup to it and the forestalled Supreme Court case that was going to be going on about it otherwise. It's not just that, yeah, well, we're not going to do it. There would be other fallout, absolutely. So what Mayor Oscar Leeser said during this a little bit earlier this week, the work session for City Council, specifically is that he will declare a state of emergency due to migrants coming to El Paso before Title 42 ends on May 11th. Again, according to our news partners over at KFOX 14 attending that meeting, Mayor, City of El Paso will declare a state of emergency before Title 42 ends on May 11th. Article title. So here's what the mayor had to say, quote, "We will do it prior to May 11th to declare a state of emergency for the main reason being we want to make sure we have schools prepared and ready to go, the Civic Center ready to go, and it's going to be very important that we are prepared strictly for temporary housing." Now, a couple of the things that have been mentioned, as was also mentioned during that bottom of the hour news update, is that there's a couple of, essentially in order of precedence, those currently vacant schools. The one, the former Moorhead, is, if I'm reading the signs, as I drive it by it, as I'm coming to and from the station sometimes correctly, it is going to be transitioning to be, I think, a K through 6 or maybe a further combined school, maybe a K through 8. I need to reread that one. But it's, of course, not happening until the fall, so it's still vacant and possibly available for that, along with another school within the former school within EPISD. But yeah, and it's not up to, I think someone said earlier, up to 35,000 migrants in Sierra Juarez. That's one of the estimates. Most I see put it between 30 and 40,000. But, well, let's, quoting directly from a deputy city manager, Mario D'Agostino, said, quote, "We keep talking about this potential of 35,000 in Juarez, and what I mean that these are truly unconfirmed numbers, and that's what we're hearing from Intel. But the concerning thing is for hearing that there's 300 to 400 coming via freight train daily, just freight train entry into Ciudad Juarez, and so that number, whatever it is, continues to grow. So that's why I say it's not up to 35,000." And Barbara Carrasco adding on that part of it, saying 3,000 are marching through Mexico protesting deaths and at the shelter in Juarez and demanding the closure of shelters in Mexico. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into this. That could be read as at least part of what has gone on with some of the protests we've seen even in this area and the potential either attempted or considered mass crossings at ports of entry here. So yeah, and of course the other one is Bassett Middle School that is again currently vacant. The next step would be the convention center, as the mayor mentioned, and then potentially hotels, but also there are other options, including third-party servicers that come along with this. So there's a lot to consider and a lot coming with it. City Council has extended an emergency ordinance for another 30 days to allow city personnel and resources to assist in caring for migrants and those situations. Again, pretty much all of the situation we see in our area is on a keep it moving kind of basis. We're not, at least as far as I'm aware of, at least when it comes to the major governmental efforts, resettling efforts. It's a where is your point of destination within the United States kind of thing. So that's Stephen Christopher, I guess, maybe suggesting a destination here. Delaware is nice in May, potentially, I guess, if Martha's Vineyard is out, among other things. But I mean, these are just some of the factors that are going into this. I mean, among other things, shelters in El Paso, we've talked about previously, and our news partners at KFOX 14 have presented, as they did over this weekend, about the needs of shelters, that what they are anticipating themselves before the end of Title 42. So there's a lot going on there. That's why I think that there's frankly a lot of importance on, well, just to harken back to that interview we just had on with the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank, because I know there are some out there that say, well, this is incentivizing it. I got to tell you, the people in Juarez, particularly those that are anticipating being able to cross at the end of Title 42, that idea is firmly out there. And I'm just going to put it this way. I'd be surprised if any of them ended up coming here because, you know what, I heard that they give out great sack lunches. I am not thinking that that's a part of the process. The reality of the situation is those people are already there. It's already going to have to be dealt with. And I see donations and things like this. I am going to be always a proponent of the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank in all the ways that it matters, whether it's feeding our immediate neighbors here or helping to deal with or staving off, in this case, hopefully, the potential for humanitarian crisis. Because when you get large groups of people that are not having basic needs met, whatever they come from, if you're not dealing with it because of whatever stance you're choosing to take, that leads to people getting desperate and things to potentially getting very much worse. So I fully support the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger on this. The El Pasoans Fighting Hunger is who I do my charity with every particularly towards the end of the year, and will be making my donation towards this specific effort myself. So take it as you may. I'm not telling you at all what to do. It's not what we do on this program, but I'm just saying some of the realities that we face in our region are very real, regardless of, frankly, how you consider them, and making sure they are dealt with is of the primary importance for me because, again, there's a lot of ways to talk about this, how we got here, what the situation is, if decision makers know what the hell they're doing overall. But if we're not talking about how we deal with this in our region first, primary and foremost, we are setting not even just this whole situation, but ourselves up for failure. And that's my 2 cents on that point. So on that, let's go ahead and get to that next break right now and go ahead and open up those phone lines. Put out a few more than a few ideas. So if you want to add your 2 cents, want to chime in yourself or add in any other way, we've got a lot of comments coming on. But if you want to get on the phone line, is available right now, that number to call. And there is a line open, at least one, as far as I can tell, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound is reduced to one lane because of road construction between Copia and Cotton Street. Expect delays till 4 o'clock for that road work. Stalled vehicle is blocking the exit ramp, border highway, westbound at Santa Fe. Road construction has the left lane closed on I-10 westbound after Las Muchas Drive. And police and fire still working an injury accident westbound red at Donovan Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Hurry and shop the final days of Springfest at Lowe's and get the best values of the season before they're gone. Save big on the Ego 15-inch string trimmer. It was $219. Now it's $199. Shop Lowe's today. Valid through 4/26. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Tara, quote, "My doctor wanted me to do saline rinses for my allergies, but I've never been able to successfully use a neti pot. Navage uses suction power, so it's foolproof. There are nights when I'll have particularly bothersome allergies. I'll bust it out, and the results are immediate. It's such a relief. It's become a lifesaver." Unquote. She's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you again, El Paso, for making us #1 in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in March. While other dealers continue to sell their vehicles for over MSRP, we continue to have the best prices in town.
Get huge savings on hundreds of new and certified pre-owned vehicles during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Right now, get $5,000 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, plus super low 4.9% APR for 72 months. Get $5,500 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport and $6,000 off MSRP on 2023 Dodge Durango SUVs. Worried about your trade or credit? Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. Or if you owe more than your trade is worth. Trade and upgrade for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus DTNL, 4.9% APR, 1606 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
While we're all distracted with culture wars and politics, the global central bank digital currency just released.
I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. Listen to The Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to chime in, participate in the show, particularly at this point during the program. We got a lot of comments coming in, and those will continue on over on our various social media channels. And then also those phone lines open if, pretty well filled up already at the moment. So we're short timing at this segment, so it's not shortchange anyone. We'll get back to the calls right after the top of the hour right now. So just keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And you know what? I don't mind anyone who does their charity any other way. I personally do it primarily with the El Pasoans Funding Hunger Food Bank, but you need a way of Flaco Jimenez saying that extra money goes to the VFW, Wounded Warriors, St. Jude, ASPCA. Hey, those are your priorities. Good at you. Just kind of like voting, as long as you do it. That's the only part that I'm primarily concerned with. It helps our area more than not. Again, that's my primary concern when we talk about most of these things. So again, I'm just going to keep pushing it until Friday, the El Pasoans FundingHunger.org for their grant match challenge. So please, if you at all have the ability to do so or consideration, because there's a lot of need in our community and more situations that we are potentially looking at, and we have a unique opportunity to make sure that we have more capability than has happened in, much recent time. So we posted up that link. We'll keep talking about that throughout the rest of the week. Hopefully we'll get an announcement that we have achieved that. But in the meantime, I'll be waiting with bated breath. But let's go ahead and take that break at the top of the hour right now. So if you're on the line, stay there. Again, if you want to get on the line, squeeze in once one becomes available. Anyway, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound is reduced to one lane because of road construction between Copia and Cotton Street. Expect delays till 4 o'clock for that road work. Stalled vehicle is blocking the exit ramp, border highway, westbound at Santa Fe. Road construction has the left lane closed on I-10 westbound after Las Muchas Drive. And police and fire still working an injury accident westbound red at Donovan Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Are you a business owner, CEO, or responsible for marketing? If you are, iHeartMedia can help you reach your goals and find new customers. We reach more consumers in your target area than anyone else, and we can give you access to those potential customers more cost-effectively across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. Get started today at iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
Texas, the Mega Millions jackpot is over $20 million, and the Lotto Texas jackpot is over $5 million. And you can now buy your lottery tickets right from your phone at jackpot.com. That's right, you can buy official Texas lottery tickets on your phone at jackpot.com. It's easy. Just go to jackpot.com, choose your favorite lottery game, pick your lucky numbers, and get your winnings instantly. Don't wait. You can't win the jackpot if you don't play. So go to jackpot.com right now and buy your lottery tickets on your phone. Go to jackpot.com. That's jackpot.com. Paid for by jackpot.com. You must be 18 or older to order a lottery ticket. Please play responsibly. If you or somebody knows a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at
News on the hour and the
childfund.org.
half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The White House is clarifying that the president will serve a full second term if he's reelected. White House spokeswoman Karine Jean-Pierre initially did not commit.
I'm just not going to get ahead of it. And there's a 2024 campaign. Anything related to that, I would refer you to that.
After her reply made its rounds on social media, Jean-Pierre confirmed on Twitter that Biden would serve all 8 years. Over 1 in 10 local election officials say they'll probably quit before the 2024 election. Researchers say the Brennan Center survey shows the turnover rate is equivalent to 1 to 2 local election officials leaving office every day since the 2020 election. Close to 3 in every 4 officials say they've felt more threats than usual in recent years. Melting snow is causing river flooding across the Midwest. The National Weather Service says the Mississippi River in Wisconsin is forecast to crest just over 16 feet this week. CNN reports this year's rise could result in the worst flood in 20 years in some areas. Harry Belafonte's widow, Pamela, is remembering her late husband. Lisa G. has more.
That's right. Belafonte died Tuesday at the age of 96, and Pamela said he made great contributions to the world.
He was a wonderful, wonderful man and had a beautiful journey and did a lot of good for a lot of people. He's in a very peaceful place.
The singer, actor, and civil rights activist was born in Harlem and never strayed far from New York City, where he also performed on Broadway. Many New Yorkers laid flowers to show respect outside his apartment building on the Upper West Side.
General Motors' first quarter earnings are above Wall Street expectations. The company reported revenue of nearly $40 billion with an income of $2.4 billion. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The WHO has its eye on a new COVID variant. Mark Mayfield reports.
It's being dubbed Arcturus on social media, and the World Health Organization says it's a subvariant of Omicron and is the dominant variant currently in India. The variant is behind a wave of sickness in India that's mostly mild, but it's also been seen in the United States and 31 other countries.
Fewer Americans are feeling confident about the economy. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index fell nearly 3 points in April to a 9-month low. The survey noted worries about jobs and a possible recession following recent bank failures in the U.S. Consumers also cut back on plans to buy homes, autos, and other big-ticket items like vacations amid inflation concerns. Proposed budget cuts could end weekend library service in New York City.
Mayor Eric Adams is looking at ways to save money, and the New York Public Library claims it's being targeted. Gothamist has obtained a letter in which NYPL President Anthony Marks says Adams plans to cut $36 million from the library budget for the 2024 fiscal year, which begins July 1st. He says that would create a $23 million budget deficit. The heads of library systems in all 5 boroughs say the cuts would force them to suspend Saturday hours at many sites and end Sunday hours altogether. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
There's a new owner of the iconic white suit that John Travolta wore in Saturday Night Fever. The 3-piece suit was auctioned off by Julian's Auctions and Turner Classic Movies over the weekend, selling for $260,000. The suit was purchased for the 1977 flick for $100 at a menswear shop in Brooklyn. Travolta, a New Jersey native, had 2 identical white suits to wear during the movie's famous dance competition scene and would use one while the other was drying out. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Green. That's green. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Hurry and shop the final days of SpringFest at Lowe's and get the best values of the season before they're gone. Save big on the Ego 15-inch string trimmer. It was $219. Now it's $199. Shop Lowe's today. Valid through 4/26. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
No, not now.
That sounds like it's going to cost you.
I know what to do. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, I could have the money in my account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
Pray.com's Meditative Prayers podcast is the best way to bring God's perfect peace into your night. Each meditative prayer helps you focus on God, fight anxiety, sleep better, and more.
As you close your eyes, ask God to come and have fellowship with you. Open yourself to the Holy Spirit and ask Him to minister to you.
Listen to Meditative Prayers on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know, when you really think about it, we want to oppose the centralization of power. We want to create obstacles to tyranny.
There he goes again, being prudent.
The Constitution isn't about procedural niceties.
Stating facts.
It's not a great philosophical document like the Declaration.
And using common sense.
It's a governing document.
If he keeps this up, he'll be Employee of the Month. Woo-hoo! Sean Hannity, afternoons at 1. News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of conversation going on over there, and of course, we got those phone lines open, if full up at the moment. Just keep that number handy as we got at the top of the screen for those looking there. 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. And, I mean, some things going on nationally. Sure, Rick Ray is mentioning the Biden re-election campaign. God save us all. Not sure if that's a quotation from it or in reference to it, but I'll leave that to you. But other comments, including on to the Proposition K, Willie Jenkins saying these agendas and propositions need grand juries. So, I'm not going to say that that's the right mechanism, but it does feel like that level of examination will probably be needed either way we go about this, because I doubt that we're totally done with it. Other comments coming in, including what is going on with it. And let's just say, as always, careful what you wish for. Anyway, let's get to those calls on the line. We do have Mike on the west side with us right now. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Oh, how are you doing, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to say, to start off, I'm just going to talk about two things. One, the expiration of the Title 42, and then the proposition, Prop K.
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
We'll start with Prop K. I went out promptly yesterday in early voting and voted against it, along with a lot of other things I voted against.
Okay.
And I am finding that it's interesting that the proposition itself, I have to agree with Frankie on that one. First of all, it's very long, it's poorly worded, and very subject to interpretation. That should it pass, I anticipate it to get a lot of lawsuits, etc., in the courts, and it's going to have its issues of its own. Hopefully, it won't pass, and we will vote it down, resoundingly. And and it still kind of annoys me that this has to come out of Austin, and honestly, I've never seen a whole lot of good come out of Austin anyway. So
okay.
I will say I'm speaking from having done my duty as a citizen to go out and vote. So
Absolutely, thank you for that.
Now, so as to Title 42, I don't even think of that sort of thing in terms of Title 42 expiring or anything like that. It's like everybody gets all wrapped around the axle with Title 42, and they completely forget certain things. And one of those things is, first of all, you're in the country illegally. And second, you were not invited to come into the country illegally. And people such as like the Raouls of the world will talk about the broken immigration system. The only reason it's broken is that it's never been enforced. And people say it needs sweeping reform and all that sort of thing. Individuals who will tell you that they need sweeping reform obviously have not studied the regulations. And the regulations are quite clear about legal versus illegal immigration. And like I said, they are simply not enforced. And it didn't come as any real surprise to me that Joe Biden was going to make it even more legal to be illegal. And so, it's sad, but this is one of those things where, we would like to secure the border and be pretty much like every other civilized country in the world whose immigration laws are even more stringent than ours. And we would like to be able to get the best and the brightest instead of whatever President Labrador releases from prison this week, or what are the other countries released from prison and send our way. And what the cartels are, paying people to come across the border to expand their business northward. And so I would have to chime in to a large degree and say that nothing has improved under the current occupant of the White House.
Mm-hmm. And,
to include his, not just the handling of this, but on a multitude of other things. But I take it to heart as an El Pasoan that, people are coming in here and trying to dictate to us, first and foremost, about our, how we want to handle the so-called climate change. And then in the same breath, they'll say, well, these individuals are more than welcome to our country. Well, now they're going to come in and they're going to overwhelm our resources. And this latest thing where we're trying to open these, the schools and these other facilities to house these people, even though they don't plan on staying here. California did the same thing, and these people simply turned into the homeless. So if that's what you want in El Paso, then, keep rearranging the chairs on the deck of the Titanic. That's all I have to say.
All right, well, fair enough. Well, thank you for the point of the call. Do appreciate it.
All right. You have a great day.
You as well there. And I wanted to make sure I didn't blow out anyone's eardrums on the phone here, but since you mentioned that you were voting out there, there's the appreciation for that as well. I will say on your last point, when it comes to the moving through, I don't have much claim or frankly willingness to put forth any claim to full understanding of California policies. I mean, the homelessness problem that they have out there is well documented and pervasive, kind of West Coast in general, because of the variety of different policy situations. I make no claim to it, and I'm not going to do it to attempt to explain it here. But what I will say as part of the local thing is that it's not just shelters being opened. I mean, that is certainly a part of it when we're looking at tens of thousands crossing within a short period. And I mean, yeah, I get it that why are we worried about just this point? Because it's an inflection point. I mean, the most recent times, the recent high water marks that we have seen over the last half year, let's just put it that way, probably closer to the last months, but let's call it the last 6 for sure. The biggest moments we've seen have when it comes to those, the considerations of these. I mean, the one in the last quarter of last year was centered primarily around the anticipated end of Title 42. Of course, it didn't end up ending, but we still saw quite a lot of crossings, attempted crossings, etc. So what I will say that I'm fairly confident that El Paso and kind of Texas in general does different than California is the transportation aspect of this. I mean, some of what we're talking about when it comes to the marshaling of local resources besides the sheltering is also the transportation. And it's still been on the table, the idea of chartering buses out of town. So I will say that, of course, there is a possibility of something continuing to be a problem, but that has been the primary local focus, is on basically keeping it moving. Whether or not that's kicking it down the road and now it's someone else's problem kind of thing, that's frankly a different issue. I got to be honest with you. But then also specifically on what's coming up with Prop K, again, interesting. I would encourage people to look at, I'll see if we can post it up in the comments there, from late last night. City of El Paso explains how Proposition K could impact operations. The possibility of the City of El Paso operations, the one within it, being spun off from the main part of it, the whole regional power supply part of it, if it were to be that this were passed and the municipalization goes through, is an interesting wrinkle that I think still kind of needs to be considered. But, and whatever you're doing, however you're voting, again, still appreciate you going out to do that, but I'm sure we'll continue discussing this one. I think we have time for one more caller before we hit that next break. Right now, we do have Jerry on the west side with us right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for the invite.
Mm-hmm.
I want to touch on something totally different.
Okay.
Everybody's talking about a lot of different things, and they're important subjects.
Sure.
I'm a contractor for the city of El Paso.
Oh, okay.
And what I would just like to put out The city's spending a lot of time, effort, and money to make the parks look beautiful.
Oh,
I would
sure.
just like to encourage people to keep their dogs on a leash and clean up after them. And the reason I'm calling today is I was at a particular park today, and this gentleman let his dogs run free. And if one dog has ever handled his business, then another dog's going to follow suit.
Appreciate the
And
phrasing.
they went to the playground where kids are going to be playing to handle their business. And I'm like, really? Can people just, that's listening, just keep the dogs on a leash and respect the fact that the soccer fields and the baseball fields and the playgrounds are general use. Other people are going to be using them. So I think it would be real good courtesy if you just kept your dogs off the slides. That's the only thing I had to add.
That I will agree with you entirely there. I think a lot of people end up, it seems to be a pervasive attitude in town of, it's not my problem, versus what would it be like if you went to use that and you know that this type of activity had happened? It's a mentality shift that I think if we did that in general, we'd see a lot better things going on in El Paso overall, I got to say.
Because it was really frustrating that, and then the park individual that was there mentioned it, and the guy took an overall attitude, and his dog just handled their business right there in the playground. And I was like, wow, really? So it was just something I wanted to throw out there. I know you have a large listening group, and a little courtesy goes a long way. That's all I got.
I will 100% agree with you on that. Do as you would do unto others as you would have them do unto you is a powerful tool to consider how navigating through life, and it certainly applies in this case. So do appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Bye.
All right, with that, we'll go ahead and take that next break right now. Some equivalent in the comments going on the validity or not of this comment. I got to say, just consideration applies in a whole lot of ways, including this. So take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, get to more calls, more comments, more of everything we do at this point during the show. So if you want to get on the line, the number to do so is, of course, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound is reduced to one lane because of road construction between Copia and Cotton Street. Expect delays till 4 o'clock for that road work. Stalled vehicle is blocking the exit ramp, Border Highway, westbound at Santa Fe. Road construction has the left lane closed on I-10 westbound after Las Muchas Drive. And police and fire still working an injury accident westbound red at Donovan Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Hurry and shop the final days of SpringFest at Lowe's and get the best values of the season before they're gone. Save big on the Ego 15-inch string trimmer. It was $219. Now it's $199. Shop Lowe's today. Valid through 4/26. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you again, El Paso, for making us #1 in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in March. While other dealers continue to sell their vehicles for over MSRP, we continue to have the best prices in town.
Get huge savings on hundreds of new and certified pre-owned vehicles during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Right now, get $5,000 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, plus super low 4.9% APR for 72 months. Get $5,500 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport and $6,000 off MSRP on 2023 Dodge Durango SUVs. Worried about your trade or credit? Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect, or if you owe more than your trade is worth. Trade and upgrade for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL, 4.9% APR, 1606 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Susan, I'm sorry I'm late. Traffic is terrible.
It sure is. But on top of that, gas prices have been skyrocketing. I can't believe how expensive gas has gotten recently.
Prices at the pump are up, but I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas.
And does that actually add up to anything?
I've made around $200.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code LUCK for an extra 25 cents per gallon cash back on your first fill-up. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, to PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code LUCK for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code LUCK for 25 cents per gallon cash back on your first fill-up.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in. However you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv. As much as some are saying, why are we talking about this? There's a firestorm. There's a reason I call it the Thunderdome of comments more often than not, because, yeah, there's a lot going on when it comes to talking about this is called elimination in parks by whoever is doing it, and bringing out some very strong opinions, including from Trito Sack, which I guess I shouldn't be surprised about. But I'm reminded of a discussion we had on, based on one of the previous incarnations of the show years ago, talking about public bathrooms in parks, and it got it was one of the busiest days of calls we had at that point in time. I think we're still weekly at that point in time. Anyway, I'm always surprised the way the discussion goes, but I always appreciate the local consideration of it, including Eric von Holstein-Rathlow saying in Austin they have bins with plastic bags in parks people can clean up after their pets. I will say that those exist in some places. I've seen it at parks around here, maybe not also with bins, but definitely the plastic bags. I think there are bins with it, but certainly within like the dog specific parks, like there are those here in El Paso. I'm a dog owner myself, and we often have gone to those and utilized that in order to just keep the park clean. So I guess I don't have a whole lot of positive things to think about or say of people that can't even worry about taking care of very basic things. I mean, come on, you're gonna have a dog, and you're actually gonna deal with it. Just deal with it anyway. And a lot of other comments, including about other assertions about people being referred to as cats. Anyway, let's get back to those phone lines now. Again, full up at the moment, but keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeastern line with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
I'm on board with you about the dogs. I own dogs. I love dogs. But, yeah, there are irresponsible dog owners. I got my dogs from a shelter who had found the puppies outside, dumped out there in on the west side of town. So there you go. The station has been running commercials for Texas's U.S. Senator Rafael Craven Cruz's podcast. Now
Sure.
You have to agree with me that the doings of our U.S. Senator affect El Pasoans. So news reports are that Senator Rafael Craven Cruz's was caught on a secret recording with Fox's host Maria Bartiromo, where he privately doubts Trump's election lies and warns Fox about needing actual facts amidst coup talk. Okay, and I recall when Rafael Craven Cruz called Trump a pathological liar for implying that Craven Cruz's dad had something to do with JFK's assassination, and for implying that Craven Cruz's wife paled in comparison on good looks to the hottest FLOTUS that we've ever had, the former nude model and gold digger Malaria T. Rump. Now here's an interesting thing. Most Democrats wish we had another presidential candidate, and I'm with them. I'm not in the cult of Biden, that's for sure, or the Democrat Party cult for that matter either. I'd like to see a younger, more progressive individual than Joe Biden, but he's done a good job. I know he's not going to do that. He's already declared he's going to run.
Sure.
He'll probably be Trump. I'd still give him a B plus or A minus for what the job he's done.
Okay.
When you take into effect the disaster he inherited. But on the other side, most Republicans, like the loyal cult members they are, want Trump again. What do you make of that?
Again, I'm not surprised. Again, even if he's no longer in office, I think one of the biggest arguments you could have is Donald Trump still the leader of the Republican Party? And I think that there'd be a lot of people still pointing to it as yes, either because they're interested in him or wanting to continue on with it. So, I mean, he's declared he's running. He's never not been running at any particular point. It's just whether it was for this campaign or not. But going back to the part that's a little bit closer to home anyway, at the very least, in an upcoming vote, we do have Ted Cruz is going to be on the 2024 ballot. It's coming back around time for that. So the anticipation of that, I do believe he has officially declared, if not already. So that's coming up. And yeah, I don't know if he'll be on one of those potential others on the ballots when it comes to running for president. Again, I think he's firmly in the still running for Senate kind of camp there. So yeah, do expect that is something we'll be voting on in the Texas area come that next major election.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate that the Republican Party is become a cult to Donald Trump. It's obviously, I mean, the guy is clearly unqualified. His presidency was a foobar of a presidency, the only president to be impeached 2 times and now be investigated. And as a matter of fact, he's in New York City for the beginning of the selection of the jury for the rape/defamation case that he is involved in, where they found 2 other witnesses who claimed that they were assaulted by Donald Trump, and where they're allowing the infamous grab him by the you-know-what tape, where we hear him, bragging about serially sexually assaulting women. So that's who the Republican Party wants for their president. Unbelievable. Shameful.
I mean, again, we kind of talked about this yesterday, as much as this is very much getting into a Friday topic when we talk about the stuff, not just in our region, but that could potentially affect us here. And yeah, if it comes down to it, I mean, if he makes it through the primary, which I have no reason to doubt at this point, that will be something that can be voted on here. But I'll just say this, it's undeniable the impact that the former president has had, not even just on, the Republican Party itself and on how the politics and the selection process will be happening there, but probably politics in general overall. So appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth on the local dish aspects of it. But yeah, talking about former president in general and his myriad court cases is firmly Friday territory. I'll say that. So again, appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth. Let's get to another call on the line here, though. One question coming in, Bernadette Bandicole asking, who could I ask to put mutt mitts stations, that recall that's what they're called, along the median part area along north of Reynolds? Starting points, I mean, if you want to reach out to your city rep, that would be one of it, but 311 in general, that's the city's kind of all-purpose citizen hotline that you can use for like reporting potholes, graffiti, trash issues and stuff like that. So I would say 311 would be a good way to do it, as also Amanda Monconda joining us, or misclick there, but Matt Olson as well. Amanda Monconda with a yo, Andrew, yo to you as well. We do have online with us right now Barbara on the west side. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call. I received a tape in my email, and it was about the city and the TV reporters asking questions and going back and forth. And it was with D'Agostino, and they called him the general chief. I saw him at the presser that I went to.
No, sure.
But my bottom line from all those questions and answers is this is all going to be a chain reaction to what the city's going to react to what the Customs Border Patrol and ICE does, and they're going to react to what the county does, and then they have the schools available, then they may have to use a county policy, and then they may have to use the hotels, and they may have to hire somebody to bus these people so that our airport would not be inundated with these tsunami of illegal immigrants. So they did indicate they applied for $40.2 million, of which there's a balance of $14.5 million left that FEMA hasn't sent. But the city has money in the general fund, our tax dollars, to make it up until the FEMA sends in the other one. And I think we're still waiting on $1.4 million from last year's second or third quarter. So don't hold your breath that they're going to get all this money by the time we go bankrupt. But we all heard President Trump is going to run for re-election.
Sure.
So I wanted to, this is what his platform is going to be. High inflation. It's at 5% now. That's still, 3.6% higher than what it was when he took office. We have high utility bills, high fuel bills, high food bills. We have low wages. We are energy dependent. Parents are terrorists. Our children are not our children. He's destroying women's and girls' sports by changing Title IX to have it gender identity rather than sex at when you're born. And then he's running on the success of Afghanistan, of which he created 13 new Gold Star families and left Americans behind. And he seems to be replicating what he did in Afghanistan in Sudan. I don't know if everybody's heard, but we did get our troops out first and 3 helicopters, but we left 16,000 Americans there. This is according to Congressman Walsh this morning. And he said that the State Department is asking the same veterans that went into Afghanistan, but this time they're telling them to go on their own dollar and bring back as many Americans as we can from Sudan. These are some of the veterans, according to Mr. Walsh, that cashed in their 401ks to go to Afghanistan because we cannot leave one American behind. So here it is again. The president is washing his hands off the Americans in Sudan and is asking these other veterans to go in and pick them up. Meantime, they're not sure that China or Russia abandoned their embassies there. So there's so much going on. And the reason they believe that Russia and China are still there is because of the gold that's there. And they have a port where 10% of our global trade passes through. So they want to have that. In addition to that, we have a president who is pro-wealth. He says he's for the American people, yet he bailed out the Silicon Valley Bank, and the top 10 accounts had a total of $13 billion in there. Now, in addition to that, he wants to pay the richest people's college loans. So you tell me where he is the blue-collar president. In addition to that, May 1st, people who have a good credit score and go out and buy a home are going to be penalized 1.75% on their mortgage, and people who don't have sufficient money to give down on a house, who don't have a good credit score, will get credited 1% on their mortgage. How is that for a president who's the president for the blue-collar workers? Replicating Afghanistan is horrible. And punishing hard workers is terrible, too. This president has weaponized and politicized the DOJ and the FBI, and he encourages or urges or demands that everybody use affirmative hiring at the White House, except when it comes to Hunter, like I said yesterday. The attorney that Biden appointed to work in the Delaware prosecutor's office was an associate in the office of Hunter's president attorney.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on around the world. You mentioned a lot of that is of concern. We're kind of firmly getting back into Friday territory here. So back on the local point you're making about when it comes to the disaster declarations or the issues we're looking at, again, at the end of the federal pandemic restrictions, and of course Title 42 included with that. I do believe you are correct. At the very least, that one site I keep referencing, El Paso, Texas.gov/migrant-crisis, the migrant dashboards and the migrant situational awareness dashboard, as of today, does reflect that total pending reimbursement is going to be $1.37 million so far. And so that looks like it's basically through the first quarter of this year. Yeah, January through March of this year. So that's where that kind of the current status is. But I will agree with you in a limited way on that. There is going to be kind of what the federal decides will inform what the local does. I don't think that the city will totally follow the county. I will say that maybe the county is a little bit ahead of this because we have, of course, previously heard that the county has applied for, I don't have the exact number in front of me, on the order of about $20 million or so in pre-payments from FEMA. in their own right. So I think that is kind of a separate thing. And of course, the city has been having its own conversations going on with that on reimbursements, those kind of things. And yeah, the county coliseum, I guess, could be considered. There's different facilities the county has. What we were talking about from like the bottom of the hour news updates, among other things, was specifically the convention center, schools, convention center, hotels, and then maybe other facilities like the city's welcome center that I forgot the exact location where that one is. Those are being considered. So sure, local certainly follows federal, but I don't think that the city will be so much following the county's lead as essentially leading its own effort, if that makes sense.
Well, D'Agostino explained today, and I understood it clearly, that if the county is overwhelmed, then the city will open their centers or whatever. So it's dependent on how far the county goes before the city jumps in with additional processing centers or shelters or whatever. And he did talk at length about the transportation and all this of these immigrants coming in. But I want to thank you for giving my husband a ding for voting.
Sure.
And then Raul, I see that he went from an A to a B plus. Maybe by the time election comes around, he'll be at the F on Biden. So, hey guys, go out and vote. Remember, vote no on Proposition K. And those things that Raul was saying, that Senator Cruz and Biden and Trump said, I think the Democrats said, hey, it was a campaign. You say all this stuff on a campaign, and that was a Democrat saying it, Raul. Just FYI. Thank you, Andrew. Oh, and besides, and everything I said about the president affects us locally. Go get a mortgage, you're going to get dinged 1.75%. So I try to keep it local because we get affected with everything this man's done. We have women's sports that he's throwing out the window. So everything that man does affects us here at home, unfortunately.
Well, certainly does. And once we start
2024, do not vote for a Democrat. You can't trust them.
Well, thank you very much for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Andrew.
All right. And with that, we'll go and take that next break right now. Like, look, as policies come down, we start seeing the effect of them. Sure, Title 42 is absolutely a federal policy and one absolutely being determined by the federal government. And yet we are directly feeling the impacts of those impending decisions and the things coming from them. So that's kind of the scope we take on it. Like, sure, there's tons of things. There are votes happening right now within the national legislature, much less even the one in Austin, that is absolutely going to have effect on us here. But kind of those, well, this could or could not happen. Like, I'm most interested in what is going on and what is happening with us right now. So listen, y'all, Friday is always coming. That's the neat thing about the progression of time. We're going to get there and talk about all the things. But in the meantime, the rest of the week, we do try to focus on like what is actually going on here right now, because there's plenty. I know that everyone has their wheelhouse and their focus on it, but well, let's just say we got a lot to get through and we'll continue doing that. So in that vein, let's go ahead and take that break right now. Again, if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents. That number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser said during Monday's work session meeting that he'll declare a state of emergency due to migrants coming to El Paso before Title 42 ends on May 11th. Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino says there is a possibility that we could experience 35,000 migrants crossing the border into El Paso from Mexico. The El Paso City and County Office of Emergency Management at the news conference yesterday addressed possible solutions that could be implemented to house migrants coming into our city. The city says it's ready to reopen the Welcome Center for processing and provide basic necessities to migrants. The vacant Moorhead and Bassett Middle School buildings are also prepared to take in migrants. The convention center would be used next if the schools are full. Now, if the need goes beyond that, hotels would then be used as shelters. D'Agostino says nothing is set in stone yet. And the hardest part about the planning is the uncertainty of what could come when Title 42 ends. I'm Iraca Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 westbound is reduced to 1 lane because of road construction between Copia and Cotton Street. Expect delays till 4 o'clock for that road work. Stalled vehicle is blocking the exit ramp, Border Highway, westbound at Santa Fe. Road construction has the left lane closed on I-10 westbound after Las Muchas Drive. And police and fire still working an injury accident westbound red at Donovan Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. It looks like a nice one coming our way for Wednesday. After lows in the 50s, most areas will see lighter winds, just breezy conditions, and cooler, high around 80 degrees for our Wednesday. Partly cloudy skies, a little warmer for your Thursday, high around 84. Looks like we could see some gusty winds returning for our Friday with partly cloudy skies, high around 86. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Right now, during Staples Free Tech Take Back, rewards members get $10 back in Staples Rewards when they recycle their tech. N63, limit 1 reward per month. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/recycling for details. Cut the cord on your old tech and recycle it at Staples.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Tara, quote, "My doctor wanted me to do saline rinses for my allergies, but I've never been able to successfully use a neti pot. Navage uses suction power, so it's foolproof. There are nights when I'll have particularly bothersome allergies. I'll bust it out, and the results are immediate. It's such a relief. It's become a lifesaver," unquote. She's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Hurry and shop the final days of Springfest at Lowe's. Save on select Bonnie 19.3-ounce vegetables and herbs, 3 for $12. Lowe's knows spring. Lowe's knows home improvement. Through 4/26 in-store only. Plant size varies, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location while supplies last. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
Sweetie, want some fruit? You have to use the right tool for the job. A power drill is the wrong tool to slice fruit. Just like an antibiotic is the wrong tool to treat viruses, including colds and flu. Antibiotics are only needed for certain bacterial infections. When they aren't needed, antibiotics won't help you, and the side effects could still hurt you. Ask your healthcare professional when an antibiotic is the right tool and when it's not. Visit cdc.gov/antibiotic-use.
Stay informed at ktsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of commentary coming in there, those dropping those likes and reacts that we always appreciate, including Flaco Jimenez, Matt Olson, Richard Janisic, Rick Reyes, Ida Beza Gardner, James Holmes, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and James Ratcliffe. And just a whole lot of other things. We have no ill will taken or assumed intended from anyone here. Just if you got certain small things to bring up about what you're anticipating nationally, but still a local program for the most part. Fridays are necessary for a variety of reasons, and that's certainly one of them. So a lot of other commentary coming in, including a Richard Janisic saying, Mayor said he would declare disaster before May 11th. I think basically when it looks like, I would still say that we're pretty well locked in for that being a very important date around here. But maybe once it's just clear that there's no rumblings of anything maybe changing to affect that, I think at this point, anything that even if there were to be a total trajectory change in the federal government's position on it, it may not make too much of a difference here because, heck, we've seen thousands of people either protest or attempt to cross, etc., even on just the rumor that there was something changing with it. So, yeah, I think we're pretty well locked in for May 11th, regardless of whatever the official situation is, and seeing a lot going on there. But let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Frankie and Missy online with us right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
I don't know if you covered this earlier in your program, specific to Proposition K vote early.
Sure.
Today's the 25th. You have already had 1 day plus a day and a half.
Correct.
Whether or not there's some early indications of how the vote is going. That's number one. Number two, I heard you say something that the city council or El Paso, in conjunction with El Paso Electric, is some kind of a carve-out. I didn't get the whole thing on that. So I'd like you to explain that again. And then I have one more comment after you answer these two things. Go ahead.
Sure thing. So no indication on I'm not aware of anyone doing like exit polling right now, particularly not during early voting. I'm not really sure if there's much opinion polling going on this, as pretty much all the money has been funneled into the yes or no campaigns themselves here. Again, the mailers I got all in front of me, the ones I've received anyway, have been entirely in the no camp, but that seems to be the dichotomy of the advertising on it. I will say that I was optimistic-ish, as much as I ever allow myself to be when it comes to voting and voting totals, that this does seem to be one. El Paso Matters had out as of today, actually, their article titled "Older El Pasoans Dominate First Day of Early Voting," and pointing out that, well, again, I'll just read again from the top of that third paragraph. Monday's turnout was extraordinarily high for an off-year election in El Paso. The first days of voting in 2013 and 2017, the last time mayoral elections were held in the spring of odd-number years, so one of the last times there was major draws, drew 2,500 and about 1,800 voters respectively, but we're sitting at just over 4,000, or right at about 4,000 people who went out to actually vote in El Paso for, and of course, on Proposition K. So we're not quite double what previous similar-ish years have been. So I don't have the ability to break down of what percentage we've seen so far in just the first day of early voting of people actually going out within the city of El Paso to do this. But okay, again, optimistic-ish, because we'll see how the rest of the week goes. But some other people saying when they saw the voting totals of who had voted so far in their location, that it seems sizable. And to your second question, then, the city of El Paso, our news partners at KFOX 14, and speaking with Laura Cruz Acosta, the spokesperson for the city of El Paso, said that there would be a potential, including, quoting directly from the article from our news partners there, about the feasibility study, the one that would take about $12 million in about 8 to 10 years to complete. The feasibility study would look into the cost of the utility assets, the construction cost of separating a city-owned system from the utility's larger system. So, that concept of a carve-out is not really one I've seen much explored, unless I've just missed something huge on this. And so talking about what it would need to be done to municipalize, the idea of a carve out is interesting. And I would want to see a hell of a lot more on that, because I'm not even sure that would be feasibly possible, given, sure, the actual transportation systems, the infrastructure that is used within the city of El Paso versus outside. Possibly there could be a build out there to make those different transfer switches, different power lines run. That's one thing. But given that there's a more than insignificant amount of power that comes from outside of the area, again, the nuclear power plant in Arizona, just separating them out entirely, I'm not sure would be entirely possible, but it's being discussed at the very least.
Oh, okay. Stay on this thing, because this is something that's outside of the normal routine that everybody was thinking about when they put this proposal together in the first place. So stay on. Maybe you get that Eddie Ortiz fellow out there. Maybe he's got some input on that. Now, let me say this. I just heard Junkyard Jerry going about complaining about dog doo-doo in some kind of park. I don't know where it was.
Yes.
I gotta tell you something. Stop. When I was a kid, I had so much fun. I was 8, 9 years old, something like that. And I would go out in the cow pasture, and I with bare feet, and push my feet into wet cow patty. I even nibbled on horse apples. The upshot of what I'm saying is, kids today are not exposed to various bacterial stuff. And you got to build up antibodies. And the only way you build up antibodies is to ingest certain terrible things. Now, I'm 82 years old, or coming up on 82, and I am 100% physically fit because and I'm not going to say I nibbled horse apples, but because I involved myself in getting involved in sticking my fingers in stuff, my body developed antibodies. So, okay, maybe it's terrible. There's a dog doodle all over the place, but kids got to have fun. And kids like to push their fingers in wet dog doo-doo. That's all I want to say about that.
If that was the available entertainment for you and the one of choice here, I am glad you made it this far. I'll just say that. And thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Oh, okay, Andrew. You take care.
You as well there. I mean, kids need to go outside. They do experience the world, antibodies and, your systems of maintaining your bodily wellness, immune system does require exposure to certain things. I'm gonna not be on and therefore seek out animal excrement train, with the caveat that, okay, I haven't sought it out myself, but back during my Boy Scout days, there was definitely a cow patty chucking competition. Was not, they were dried ones, so I feel maybe I don't know how I feel about that in retrospect, but I think there's a picture out there of me of like mid-swing of just chucking a cow patty, but I'll just say I'll appreciate defecation being separated from recreation, and I'll just continue on in that vein. I think we got time for one more quick call on the line here. I never know how the show is going to go sometimes, folks, so I'm just along for the ride like y'all. We do have Ben on the east side with us right now. Ben, we got about 3 minutes here.
Just real quick, what happens when the mayor declares a state of emergency because of the influx of illegals? What exactly happens?
Basically, it's about more along the lines of those other operations being open. I mean, there is a continuation from the city of El Paso of the ordinance that is in place that allows for certain things such as city personnel and resources to assist in some of these operations. But there would be more, like, I think those shelters being open specifically would be under the purview of the emergency declaration itself.
Aren't we also eligible for state funds?
Correct. And I think those are, if I'm not mistaken, still in place from the previous emergency declaration. I mean, state troopers and at least some of the both physical and personnel infrastructure at the border, at the the soft border, not the actual concrete edge of it, is still in place kind of under that same vein as well.
What is the mayor waiting for? We've got a definite state of emergency going on. It may not happen till May 11th. Wouldn't it be nice to be prepared for what is coming? Because they're saying 35,000 migrants may be ready to cross into El Paso that day, and probably more.
I mean,
so instead of looking after the needs of the illegals, how about protecting our tax dollars?
I mean, why not do it sooner? I'm not quite sure about that part, but yeah, what the mayor has said is that we'll just quote from directly, we will do it prior to May 11 to declare a state of emergency for the main reason we want to make sure we have schools prepared and ready to go, the civic center ready to go, and it's going to be very important that we are prepared strictly for temporary housing. So that's the major part that he is focused on that.
He's taking care of the illegals. He's not taking care of his citizenry. What is he doing to protect us against what's going to be coming? He's taking care of all the illegals' needs. He's going to feed them. He's going to house them. He's going to take care. He's going to shelter them. He's going to do all these things for them. What is he doing to protect our tax dollars? Nothing, is he? Would you agree with that?
I don't know if I'd totally agree with that, but the major parts that he has talked about are certainly on the fact that he has no concern for local tax dollars. I mean, there has been reimbursements that have been pushed forth from the federal government and, of course, from the state and things like that. Primarily federal government reimbursements, from the states more of like personnel. I mean, the Texas Military Department troopers that have been in the area, those kind of things.
That happened in the past.
Certainly.
Didn't that happen in the past? This is the present. This is a new emergency. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I get what you're getting at, it being new, but I would maybe more call it the same vein of what has been going on, just ramped up to the next emergency level, requiring the declaration in my mind.
Yeah, but he should be taking care of the problem now. We know there's going to be a problem. Our mayor is not looking after our tax dollars. He needs to protect us, not look after the illegals. The illegals is a federal problem. That is a federal problem.
I mean,
it should not be on the people of El Paso.
I mean, I'll agree that it is. I mean, federal is there's certainly a part of this, but it's still right on our doorstep and going to be in our backyard. So I think there does have to be a response to this, though. I understand your frustration with other parts of this. So we got to take that break now. So do appreciate the point and the call.
Stay well, stay safe. God bless, and let's go, Brandon.
And with that, we're going to take that last break. Coming out of this, tell you we got coming up for you on the show. So stay tuned. We're Talk El Paso after this on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound is reduced to one lane because of road construction between Copia and Cotton Street. Expect delays till 4 o'clock for that road work. Stalled vehicle is blocking the exit ramp, border highway, westbound at Santa Fe. Road construction has the left lane closed on I-10 westbound after Las Muches Drive. And police and fire still working an injury accident westbound red at Donovan Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Right now during Staples Free Tech Take Back, rewards members get $10 back in Staples rewards when they recycle their tech. N63 limit 1 reward per month. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/recycling for details. Cut the cord on your old tech and recycle it at Staples.
Hey, let's force the city to buy the electric company for $8 billion.
It costs 8 times more than El Paso's budget.
Yeah,
Property taxes would skyrocket. That's an awful idea.
that's Prop K. And that's not all. Prop K shuts off water at some gas stations.
That's crazy. No bathrooms or water to stop a fire?
Small price to pay to stop pollution.
But the Environmental Protection Agency said most of El Paso's pollution comes from international sources, not us.
Let's pass it anyway.
Even if it means raising everyone's electric bills and property taxes and cutting police and firefighters?
Now you get it.
This is the worst idea ever. Who wrote this?
My neighbors did.
How can you call yourself an El Pasoan?
I don't. I'm from Austin.
Austin wrote it. Only El Paso can stop it. On May 6th, vote no on Prop K, the worst idea in El Paso history. Political ad paid for by El Pasoans for Prosperity PAC.
Rosetta Stone, where language is learned. rosettastone.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Some more things we got coming up for you. Looking at getting together another What's the Deal With segment, maybe on some of those school safety propositions. Didn't even get to touch on it today, but Texas House voting to require panic buttons in every classroom and our GARMs at every school. So some of those considerations kind of simmering in the background, but we could be seeing more of that impact in Texas as well. So more on that and other things, as well as some other events. Like, it's not all doom and gloom out there. We still got stuff going on and maybe even some giveaways for you all. So more on that coming up later this week on the program. So super out of time here for the show. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show in any way. If you want to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland, the stuff happening right here at home, we'll continue doing that every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So until then, until next time, I want you all to stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound is reduced to one lane because of road construction between Copia and Cotton Street. Expect delays till 4 o'clock for that road work. Stalled vehicle is blocking the exit ramp, border highway, westbound at Santa Fe. Road construction has the left lane closed on I-10 westbound after Las Muches Drive. And police and fire still working an injury accident westbound red at Donovan Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Portions of the